Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Right, 9th of March, Google Hangout, Singer Vielle. Let's tell you what's going on. Right, today we have me, Neil Singer. We have Dale Henry. We have Richard Wolfred. And we have our special guest, Mark Bruno of Datscha. Okay, now remember that it's these Google Hangouts are CPD accredited. So all you need to do is to drop us an email at the end of the Hangout, and we will send you your CPD certificate. The next thing I always like to mention is please sign up on our YouTube channel so you receive notifications of any new videos that we're placing. Right, guys. First topic today, professional etiquette. Who wants to start? Richard?
Good afternoon, everybody. Our first topic this afternoon, as Neil said, is about professional etiquette, because we have experienced some feedback recently from our clients saying that other agencies have been discrediting us and the way we go about selling property. And we feel that it is one thing to promote yourself above the competition and say why you are better. It is something else entirely to say you shouldn't use that agency because they are poor, or because they're not very nice, or because what they do is not in a client's best interest. We do not slag off other agencies. We do not try and discredit other agencies or other auction houses. We simply give reasons why we think we are better, and there is a difference in our opinion. And clients, in our recent experience, actually don't like being told by other agencies that the people they're employing to sell their properties are not very good. They would prefer agents to work together. We're all in the same game. It is business. However, there has to be professional etiquette, and we do not go about promoting ourselves above the competition by discrediting anybody. We go about promoting ourselves above the competition by saying what we do is different and why we think it's better.
Very good. And that actually, if I can suggest, is directed at the younger people who might be watching, because we just experienced some, well, our clients actually have experienced some feedback recently, which just isn't cricket really. It's not the way you go about things. And in business, I would say always do the right thing. So well done, Richard. And with regard to the people who we're referring to, you know who you are, and we know who you are, and you're probably watching. Right, let's go to some news for the week. Let's go to the big news of the week. Right, first big news of the week, guys. You can see that, can't you? Can we see that?
No, yep.
There we go, there we go. First news of the week, right, is CBRE targets sub £10 million deals with its new small cap team. And as you can see, it's been headed up by PJ Thibault, who has a remarkable resemblance to Dale Henry. So I suggest that Dale Henry takes over.
Hello. Thank you. I do think our noses are very similar, very similar. Yeah, so it was interesting to see that CBRE have launched this new, what they call small cap team, who are targeting the sub £10 million market. So they're moving from the from their sort of historically larger end of the market into the private end and sector. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with it. I believe they've got a 12-strong team, purely dealing with the sub £10 million market. It's interesting so why they've moved into this area. Is it because they're trying to embrace the private investor market, or is it a lack of transaction volumes at a higher level? I think it's probably a combination of both factors. If you look at transactional volumes and the slowdown in the UK investment market, how many transactions are really being done at the higher end? I mean, they've got a 12-strong team. I would have thought they're going to have to do a pretty high turnover for it to be sort of financially viable. But I think they're seeing, like we are, that many private investors are turning away from the residential sector following the changes to stamp duty, and they're moving across the commercial sector. The private market is extremely strong at the moment. We've been in this market for a long time now, and we're sort of as busy as ever. So I think they've sort of, it's interesting to see other larger companies that are now moving across into this sector.
Can I say something? Can I interrupt? Can I say something? I think it's actually a lot more difficult than the big firms realize. I think it's not a question of just opening up a team and getting into the market. We've been doing this 10 years. This is why we're so highly ranked on Google, and we get private investors coming to us all the time, particularly recently from UK and abroad, because that is where the market is active. So I suppose if I'm a cynical, you could take the view that the reason the big firm is moving into the small market is because perhaps they're not doing the turnover at the higher end. Anyway, we wish them luck. Yeah, that's good professional etiquette for you. Right, if we can move on. Quick news for you. Foxtons yesterday, large slumping sales. The revenue was down. Sorry, be back. The revenue was down to 55 million, down 23%. Countrywide this morning said their profits have halved. Now, actually, I think that's a bit misleading. It says their profits have halved. They just announced them from 47.7 million down to 19, but their turnover actually remains pretty static. The turnover was 737 million compared to 733 last year, but they've spent an incredible 47 million pound in restructuring costs. But it's very interesting to see what's happening in the residential market. They're having a difficult time. It was no surprise to me at all that that there was no change to stamp duty yesterday. I didn't think for a minute they were going to change stamp duty, and I didn't think for a minute they were going to change the difficulties of residential landlords offsetting high rate tax relief. So the budget was really all a bit dull, really, from a property point of view. I'm going to bring in Mark. Mark, anything from the news that you want to talk about?
On those points, no. Professional etiquette I'll touch on, though, because I completely agree with you. I think from our perspective, the market's always big enough, and I think you end up making yourselves and your competitors look better by adopting the appropriate professional etiquette. And there's typically enough business for everyone to do, so we should be promoting each other rather than slagging each other off.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
Here. Okay. I would, before I let Mark talk about Datscha, and there's one other thing I want to show everyone, which is actually, I think, quite interesting. I should have brought another hat with me. I was going to bring my other hat, wasn't I, today? And I forgot to doing it. This is an agency called Andrew Nunn and Associates, who are a Chiswick-based residential agency. And as you know, we at Singer Vielle have used the click-to-purchase platform, which we are associated with. And we use that to do online selling. It is an independent platform to the agency. And Andrew Nunn, as you can see, are now the first residential agency, truly 100% traditional residential agency in London, to adopt the click-to-purchase platform, which enables them from today to have properties executed online by the agent in either a best bids, private treaty, or a real-time auction scenario. And every agent in the country can be an online real-time auctioneer. Actually, we'll show you that in a minute from today. So that's quite interesting news for us. Right, Mark. Do you want? We want you to tell everyone about Datscha.
I would love to. Good afternoon, everyone.
Let me open my. Tell me when I haven't moved on a slide for you. Okay. Do you want tell me when you want the first slide up, or do you want to say?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me? Shout slide number, and I'm there for you.
I will do that. No, I'll just talk for the time being. So For those of you who don't know who Datscha is, we're a data business in the commercial real estate market. We're actually a Swedish company and have been around for about 20 years in Sweden. That's more like it. A little bit of our website over there. So what we do, I guess our core DNA is to collect data from the single best sources available in the market, aggregate it and combine it, and then visualize it in a map-based system. What does that mean? Well, at the moment it means we've got, in the UK at least, we have information from the Ordnance Survey, Land Registry, Companies House, Valuation Office, and a number of different sources. And that allows us to go in and drill into particular properties and provide a lot of further information. I'll show you a couple of slides on that in a minute. It's interesting to find out how we came about. As I mentioned, we've been around for over 20 years. There was, in the mid-90s in Sweden, there was a bit of a property crash. And the banks realized they didn't have enough information on the assets they were lending against, which is why they had a lot of these bad loans in their portfolios. And so our chairman at the time went out and started collecting information on these buildings in Stockholm, kind of on a one-by-one basis. And fast forward 20 years, Datscha is a completely different being. It's actually a verb in Sweden among the property community. We've got 85% market share over there. We launched in Finland about 6 years ago now, and in the UK about a year ago. But Datscha itself, we're kind of part of something larger as well. So we are wholly owned by a company called Stronghold that has 1 foot firmly planted in the traditional real estate building. They have their own agency in Newsec with about 1,000 employees, a fund management company, Nine, with about 3 billion under management. And then they have kind of this digital real estate arm, of which I guess we're the tech geeks of the group, and a couple of, we have our own VC arm as well. So we're investing in other prop tech startups, typically in the Nordics and the Baltics, but we do look elsewhere as well. So maybe you can go off to the next slide. Neil?
I know all about startups, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So what can we do with Datscha? Rather than giving you a full demo, I was just going to show you a few of the slides. Because we have all this data from so many different sources, matching all these data sets is actually incredibly hard. There are 29,000 trillion operations that have to be undertaken in order to match all this data from the different sources, because we have information on over 24 million properties in the UK, and of those we have ownership information on over 3.3 million commercial property interests. So quite a number to go through. And what this allows us to do, so what you're seeing on your screen right now is a map of the City of London. All the blue dots are the freehold properties. You can very quickly show up all the property borders for the property. As you click on each of the properties, you'll find out information on them. So this is just a quick overview box on the left-hand side, gives you basic information about who the owner is, who the ultimate owner is as well, because as many of you know, properties are often held in SPVs. And you want to know who the ultimate owner is so you can see their whole portfolio. We give information on rateable values, the size of the properties, etc. If you go through the next slide. As you drill into this particular property, you'll see that it's owned by LS Hill House Limited, but the ultimate owner is actually Land Securities. We have further information, how long it's been owned, any of the related leaseholds over 7 years. You can see the extent of some of those leaseholds there in the map as well, and information on any risk of flooding or environmental features around landfill or flooding, as I said, which gives you kind of incredible depth of information, which if you were new to the property industry, you'd think, you know, we should have had this 15 years ago. Amazingly, it hasn't been around in this country. Part of that has been the accessibility of the data, which I may touch on later on, which was essentially just released about a year ago now. But if you know, a lot of people, when they look at a property like this, like that's great, but I'm interested to find out, you know, what else Land Securities own. So if you click through to the next slide, because we have all this information in our database and we can link it all together and search by it as well, you have here the full company tree structure for Land Securities, where each of the the companies falling within that tree and then the specific properties within that. So on the right, you very quickly get a picture of what the land securities portfolio looks like, the split between freehold and leasehold properties, which for many companies is amazing. I was actually talking to an agency a little while ago, and one of the graduates there told me that, you know, he was very pleased. He was working with, you know, one of the local councils, and he discovered 40 properties that they didn't realize they owned, which is fantastic. And I said, great, you know, how long did it take you to put this together? And he said, oh, about 8 or 9 months. And he said, can your system do that? And I went, you know, what was the council again? And I typed it in, and it came up with the 2,500 properties in seconds. That's how the market is changing these days. I mean, people are want their information that much faster, and it's something we're able to help them with. A couple of other slides, quick slides I'll show you. If you go to the next one, please, Neil. So we go back to that same map, but once again, what people want to know, if they're looking to acquire a property, maybe using, you know, click to purchase or yourselves, they often want to find out, listen, I want to find out who owns other properties around my building, what sort of premises are they, you know. So with our system, you can very quickly draw a polygon around your target property, and then it will spit out a list of the particulars for all those properties. You know, who the owners are, the ultimate owners are, the size, the premises type. You can find out if they're, you know, industrial, office use, whatever it's going to be. You can drill down further and say, well, actually, I only want to see the offices that are between, you know, 10 and 30,000 square feet. So you can start searching by those as well. You know, incredibly powerful. And actually, even a lot of the agents are using this tool because for canvassing. You know, once you've done a deal on a property, you know, why not tell all the people in the surrounding area that you've actually transacted on something nearby? That's something that you know, Vielle could be doing as well, potentially. And then the last slide I show you,
How much?
I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement. Yeah. I like this slide just because it's pretty. It shows some of our environmental information. You can show the depth and wealth of the information we have. So this is directly from the Environment Agency, but once again, layered on this backbone of information that we have from the Land Registry, OS, and other sources. So here we're showing all the landfill, current and historic, all the flooding events for the last 100 years, as well as the risk of flooding, which is the bright colors, with the red being the high risk areas. So once again, if you're looking to do quick due diligence on a property, you know, we often say we can get you 80% of the way there, like within minutes. You don't have to spend 2 or 3 days, you know, doing your due diligence. It's all in one place, and you can get the information you want, and then you can spend more time on the work that you really should be doing. So that is kind of in a nutshell what Datscha is in the UK for the time being. So, and I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about the other stuff in the future. Can I
ask you a couple of questions, actually?
Sure, please.
When you launched a couple of years ago in the UK?
December of 15, yeah, so a little over a year ago. Okay, and what was the biggest difficulty or the challenge to get into the market here? That's a good question. We're in Sweden, and I guess Finland was our first international test market. We've been looking to launch in the UK for about 4 years, but because our level of information is so granular, you know, as I said, we try to go to the single best source for this data. So it's all official data. The availability of the data is something that is often tricky for us. And here in the UK, we're working very closely with both Land Reg and OS to both digitize their data and change their business models to allow us to do what we wanted to do. So kind of that's on one side. The other is the quality of the data. I don't know if you've ever worked with Swedes, but you know, they often think that Sweden is great at everything, and in many cases they are. So their addressing system, for instance, every building in Sweden has its own name or address. You know, it could be called Blueberry 15 or something, and everyone refers to that building as Blueberry 15. Whereas in the UK, because you have, you know, different people are in charge of the addressing system. The Post Office have one system, Ordnance Survey have another one, Land Registry has another one. Not to mention that every building, you know, can have multiple entrances. It becomes incredibly complicated. you know, trying to tie all these data sets together. So that, you know, that was a bit of a challenge for us as well, and part of the reason we have to do so many calculations. And I guess the third part was really just the fact that, you know, markets are different. In Sweden, for instance, and you guys might find this interesting, there are very few commercial letting agents, because the office transactions, for instance, are normally done directly between the property owner and the tenants. So, you know, that's not a market they have over here, whereas, you know, the UK is entirely different. And then you got the whole concept of freehold and leasehold, particularly, you know, British concept, which doesn't exist in Sweden. So once again, we had to kind of adjust our framework to take all that into account. So a few challenges, but that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because you just mentioned there that landlords let directly to tenants, and I have a certain view about the future of the industry here and how technology is changing it. And as a fellow techie, what do you think the impact of prop tech is going to have on our business in the coming years? In fact, it might be this. It's probably, when I say years, it should be year really, because it's all changing. It might be pretty quickly.
No, it is. It's funny. Prop tech's been around for 20 years, but it feels like in the last year or two, it's just gaining momentum. I think there could be a variety of impacts. I mean, just I always look at fintech. You know, the property industry seems to be about 10 years behind the finance industry. Look at the money that's poured into that. That's now starting to pour into prop tech. And prop tech itself is a massive space. You've got everything from smart buildings and the Internet of Things to, you know, VR, and I suppose the part that interests us more, which is big data. And they're all going to have different effects on the industry. I think all, by and large, very positive. Fundamentally, I think it's just going to make the industry more efficient and more effective, right? So it allow people to do their jobs faster, and it'll allow them to actually gain more business. That might be uncomfortable for some people. Change is always uncomfortable for some people, but ultimately, I think it has to be a good thing. Well,
we've experienced that. I can tell you, both in our agency and in our sort of online mechanism of selling, because we constantly get the sort of comment, "Oh, we don't do that," or but I think that you will be doing that because everything is changing, and I just don't think that the agency model is sustainable in its current guise. I mean, that's why I always go on about looking at Foxtons and Countrywide. It's no coincidence that their shares have just tumbled, whilst Purple Bricks are just going up and up and up. And it's whilst it might relate to the market on the one hand, you would have thought that Purple Bricks shares would actually decline as well, but they don't. They go completely the other way.
Yeah,
there are a few other that as well. So you know, I'm 100% agree with you.
Yeah, no, completely. Not to say there isn't room for agents in the marketplace, because I think there always is. I think to a certain degree, you know, data itself isn't that valuable. It's what you do with that data and that information and the processes, right? And as soon as you start digitizing the knowledge management processes and getting valuable insights out of it, that's what agents should be doing, right? They should be providing advice. They shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't all be about, you know, who they know and what they know. It should be about what advice they can provide. And so to that end, I think there's always going to be room for agents. And I think they're just going to have to be, you know, slightly sharper about what they do, because unfortunately, technology kind of raises the bar. It means the good ones will survive and thrive, and the bad ones are probably going to fall by the wayside. So people are just going to have to sharpen their pencils.
Yeah, I don't think you can't make your living anymore phoning someone up saying, "Here's a building, do you want it? Can I have 100 grand, please?" Can I just mention to everyone who might be watching that if you want to send any questions to ask Mark, just go onto you can see how you can do that on the YouTube link, and I'll flag that up with Mark straight away. Mark, do you want to run through the last slides? Or
no, absolutely. I mean, you brought up a couple of interesting points about you know, how's prop tech gonna change everything, and I think, I mean, it's amazing, the commercial property market. You know, we did this test actually where I met you, Neil, last week at the Future Prop Tech conference, and we did a quick survey of, you know, is Excel still a primary database in commercial real estate companies? And overwhelmingly, the answer is yes. I think Altus also did a kind of a more official study and discovered that, you know, trillions of dollars worth of real estate is still managed using Excel. You know, it's the largest asset class in the world, and it's still managed using Excel, which is absolutely crazy. People need to be making more use of the knowledge they have, right? You go ask people, do you have a database? Do you have a system? People will say yes. Inevitably, it ends up being kind of lots of different silos in you know, different parts of the company. And you know, one group doesn't know, one division of a company doesn't know what the other division's doing, what properties it's transacted on, who they've talked to. You know, comps are not easy to come by. And I was actually at another a seminar recently, and really interesting point if you go on to the next slide. So it was Dr. Hans Frentzen, who's now the head of research at AEW, and he says that, you know, right now real estate companies are making kind of infrequent large decisions with great care, and it's taking a lot of time to collect the information they need, and they invariably don't have enough time to think about the decisions they make. So it's, you know, it's a classic, you know, Pareto percentages, 80% of the time collecting the data they need, 20% time, you know, thinking about what they should be doing. In the future, that's all going to change, right? People are going to have to be more agile. People are making faster decisions. People will be able to buy properties, you know, online with a click of a button using click to purchase and these sorts of things. And the collecting part of that, it is going to have to reduce to 20%, so they can spend more time thinking about what they're doing and making all those optimal decisions. You know, I really think that's the way the market is going.
I think the problem, my personal view, is that agents and property people fear technology as opposed to thinking or realizing they need to embrace it to improve their service. And that's my view.
Yeah.
Guys, anyway, so I have one last question for you. My favorite, oh, sorry, do you want to run through your last slides? You had...
Oh yeah, no, I was just on that point, actually. I was just going to say, so, you know, one of the things we're actually working on, the next step for us is allowing, everything I showed you so far is visualizing publicly available data, but we have customers who have got tons of information in-house, but they've got no way to store it or search it or analyze it or visualize it. So kind of the next step for us is allowing people to input their own data into our system. So this is just some demo data of a slide where, for instance, someone could have entered all the transactions they may have done in an area, so that, you know, you could use it for business development when you're going out and seeing clients. Listen, these are all the properties, you know, of a certain size in a certain area that I've transacted on. You can click on them, get further information. But further, you can actually analyze, and it doesn't even be transactions, it could be anything, you know, you happen to be looking at. You know, but once you have the data in the system, you can then start analyzing it as well. So if you go to the next next slide, you can see an example of, you know, these will be all the lettings a company has input into their system, both their own, possibly some external comps as well. So they can start analyzing with their own data by asset class, for instance, how rents have changed over times in specific areas and that sort of thing. And it gives you so much more power of what to do kind of with your own data. And, you know, we're starting to help people do this. And I think the market as a whole is going to be there to help people make more use of their existing assets.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. I think if I can just one last thing, which you mentioned that, and I think this, just to make sure people are clear, the data that you're collecting is different to, say, a competitor, say like CoStar. The data you're using is already available, but you're just putting it in a format that's very easy to access and use far quickly. I think that's a big key advantage in my view of what you guys are up to.
It's a massive difference to us. So for us, we don't release any data until we're sure. First of all, we go to the original source. So our data is as good as it is from the land registry. And we have coverage of the whole, you know, all of England and Wales, where all 87% of properties registered in England and Wales as a result. So it's not as if we're better in London than we are in other places. And you know, the data is as accurate as the government held data. So those are very key points for us.
Okay, great. Good. Okay. Right. if I can suggest, thanks very much, Mark. If I can suggest, if anybody wants an introduction to Mark, just please drop us an email or call us afterwards, and we'll put you in direct touch. And then I'm sure Mark will be able to talk to you about using Datscha for your own business.
I should mention as well, though, that we're going to be at MIPIM next week. So if any of you are going to be at MIPIM, we have a stand in the London Pavilion. Sorry, shameless plug there. So you can find me and us there as well if you happen to be there.
Yes, I'm not there this year. I'm not there this year. Okay. What I thought I would do now is I want to show people what we're doing shortly with regard to our online auctions. But I think, should we have a break before we show people more technology? And should we just give a bit of news about what we've been doing in business? Richard, I don't know, do you want to, you might want to tell everyone how we're getting on in terms of our sales, etc., what's been going on?
Sure, no problem at all. As a lot of you may have seen, we've been putting various bank investments into the market. All have been offered with new 15-year leases, predominantly to Bank of Scotland on non-assignable leases, and we have sold. We've sold 2 and acquired 1 at yields down to 5%, and in the last 3 or 4 days have agreed 4 more in Wales and Scotland at between 5 and to just under 5.5%. So some very interesting yields for not only this type of income, which is unique apart from this portfolio, but given that the locations are secondary, they're not London, they're not Southeast, they aren't cities. They are, to be fair, secondary towns in Scotland and Wales, but the quality of the income is attracting private investors and SIP investors. So if anybody else is interested and looking for that sort of property, that sort of income, please do get in contact with us and we may be able to help.
You say may be able to help.
We'll be able to help.
Let's just rewind. Can we edit this and go back? Shall we rewind? We'll be able to help. Right. We'll have to practice that one a bit more, Richard. Dale, do you want to tell everyone what's going on coming up? We've got a few things coming up shortly.
Oh. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. We've got some new sales coming up next week, which I can give you a quick overview on now. The first of which is a well-let restaurant investment in Swansea city centre, which is an Ask Italian. It's the full Ask covenant in the prime leisure pitch leisure circuit in Swansea. 7 years unexpired. Ask have got an overriding lease on the entire building. Interestingly, they don't occupy the upper parts. So there could be an opportunity for someone to extract some value, could suit a change of use, possibly residential. So there could be an opportunity to take back those upper parts, but it's 7 years, Ask, great covenant. We're asking 1,055,000, which is 6%. We'll be going to the market next week, but if anyone wants some details now or to chat through, then get in touch, just give us a call, send us an email. We're also going to have a highly secure, long-dated health and fitness club investment in South Wales, which is about 20 years unexpired to Nuffield Health, a 5A1 covenant on assignment from Virgin Active. So the income doesn't get much better. 20 years, purpose-built health and fitness club. We're going to be asking 3.85 million, which is 6.4%. Again, if you want some preliminary details, then get in touch. And we're also working on an industrial distribution up in the northwest, which will also be some well-secured, sort of long-dated income. And we were instructed this week on an Iceland store up in Scotland. So those are some of the instructions that we've got coming into the market shortly.
We've actually got some provincial offices that have just come in, and we've also, with so many sales, we've got another one today that's come in up in the northwest, a big leisure. Okay, if I'm gonna share my screen again, I want to show. I'm going to talk whilst I show you something. This will explain the click-to-purchase auctions that we are now running. We used to run these with the version 1 of the system, and this is a very short explanation of the click-to-purchase auctions which we're now using. We take the view that the auction room the auction environment is changing. We think people are nervous of going to the ballroom auctions. Now, we say that because that's exactly what we're told by many private investors who come and buy properties off us. And we think the world has moved on. The only auction systems around at the moment are eBay-style auctions. And what we wanted to do is embrace a system which actually put the traditional auction process, which everyone was aware of, and just put it online. So the version 2 click-to-purchase auction system, which is just playing, as you can see, is a system whereby any agent at any time can start auctioning property or properties, and bidders, pre-verified, can bid in real time against a live auctioneer, asking questions of the auctioneer in exactly the same way as you would do if you were in a traditional ballroom auction. But you can do this and you can bid from your phone in real time, and you can buy a property in real time from anywhere in the world. What the click-to-purchase auction system does is two things. It doesn't try to change the way that property is auctioned. What it is doing is putting the traditional process and merely putting it online. Now, why either that click-to-purchase system has got it very right, and the eBay-style systems have got it very wrong, or the click-to-purchase is very wrong and the eBay styles are right. But the one huge difference between all this is that because click-to-purchase allows private treaty exchanges to occur online, it's a system where you can buy prior or buy post if a product doesn't sell, and it's available immediately to everybody in the country. So we are, as a business, are using it as another mechanism to bring in the marketplace, UK and globally, and to further embrace technology. So that is what we're doing as a business. So you should see very soon from us further auctions for properties that we are selling. Okay, guys, has anybody got anything else to say? This has actually been quite a long hangout today. Mark, you've been great.
Thank you. It's been
really, really great. It's really great.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So, if we can help you out in return on any of your events, please let me know.
Will do.
And like I say, I would urge people to get in contact with Mark, because I think Datscha really is an incredible system. Right, guys, any last comments? We should get the phone ringing shortly from that individual which we're specifically referring to in our etiquette lesson earlier. So I don't know who's going to get the phone call, whether it's going to be Richard, Dale, or me, but we are expecting. Okay, guys, so that's it then. I think we're all done for today. So Mark, thank you once again. Dale?
Thank you.
Richard?
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And remember, if you want to sell properties, you know where to come. Thanks very much. Bye.